Good evening, everybody. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero with this next weekend outlook forecast. Now, this is going to be quite an interesting one because we're going to have a bit of a split personality weekend, but overall, it's going to be chilly. So let's start out taking a look at the radar here. And if we take a look through the northeast here, there's really nothing happening at the moment. This is going to change once this little system comes through here. And this is our next tropical system. Stick around and we'll talk about the next tropical system coming up the East Coast in just a little bit. But that's just what we're identifying right now. We do have a little system right here. A lot of clear air throughout the entire area. And then to the west here, we do have a little bit more of some possible rain, but that may not be for the weekend. That may be a little bit later on in the week. So if you want to get the latest weather updates, make sure you're subscribed below. So that's starting out with the radar. Now the next thing I do want to take a look at in here is going to be specifically with the tri-state region. All of the watches, advisories, and warnings. And this is going to be something that's a little bit on the winter side. So we're starting to see here in the blue and the dark purple. So we do have a freeze warning and we do have a frost advisory. So in here, this is where we're starting to see the end of the growing period. So with the frost advisory and the freeze warning, that's really for any kind of vegetation, sensitive vegetation that you do have outside. If you can bring it inside, I would definitely recommend that. Otherwise, if you can't, then what you should do is try and cover it. Because when I click on one of these, let's say the frost advisory, and that brings up a little description right over here. So frost advisory remains in effect from 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. Saturday, Eastern Daylight Time. We are still in daylight saving time. So temperatures falling into the lower to mid 30s tonight will result in areas of frost. In New Jersey, Passaic, Western Bergen, in New York, Orange, Putnam, Rockland, northern Westchester. Frost could harm sensitive outdoor vegetation. So that's all this really means with the frost advisory and the freeze warning. Now I'm going to bring up the freeze warning here as well. And all this that's a little bit different. Frost and freeze conditions are expected to kill or damage all other sensitive vegetation left outdoors. So slight difference between the frost advisory and the freeze warning. If there are plants or vegetation that are outside for the freeze warning, and specifically that was in Sussex County, so that's the higher elevations. When we're seeing those higher elevations here in that darker kind of like blue or purple, anything left outside is probably going to be killed off, and that's going to be the end of the growing season. We are getting to the end of October. Halloween is right around the corner, so we're starting to see temperatures dropping. And we'll talk about the temperatures as well. But another thing I want to bring up here is the surface analysis. So we took a look at the radar. So next, we're going to take a look at the surface analysis. And this surface analysis was issued 18Z Friday, which is in daylight saving time, 2 p.m. today. So we do have that exiting low pressure system that gave a lot of rain later in the day on Wednesday, going through Wednesday night into early Thursday. Thursday was windy, still windy for right now because we do have this higher pressure gradient. That higher pressure gradient is giving us these very windy conditions. So that's starting to move out. What's going to come in for the first part of the weekend is this next high pressure system. Now, it's not your typical like round circular high pressure. This is actually more of an oval shape, and we have the clockwise rotation around the high. So as this starts to make its way in, specifically with the clockwise rotation, it's pulling down northerly winds here, which is what's cooling down the atmosphere. As of this recording, where I am, it is 50 degrees, and this is in the early evening. 50 degrees in the early evening means it's going to be dropping throughout the...
6:32 p.m.
There we go, 6:32 p.m. I didn't ask you, but thank you. So this is going to be dropping quite a bit through the evening, and that's where these frost advisories and freeze warnings are coming from. Now, the next system that we're kind of looking at right here, our tropical system. I'll talk about that coming up next, but that, our low pressure, is associated with that little stationary front. It's not really going to be moving because we do have some blocking patterns. This high pressure is kind of blocking that tropical system, so it's kind of just staying right there in the Gulf of Mexico as the high kind of moves in. Now, on the back side of the high pressure system, as that starts pulling away, we're going to see that low pressure system start to fall in or follow right behind the high. And it's kind of like a little zipper pattern. So we have that low exiting, high coming through here. Then we're going to have this low, which is the tropical system, coming through here. And then we're going to have another high pressure system and a low pressure system, all kind of zippering right in together. The zipper pattern. So now, let's take a look at the satellite. When we take a look at the satellite, it's very interesting to see it moving here. Now this I have in infrared. This specifically I have as shortwave infrared. So what we're seeing in the whites, the whiter the color, that means the cooler the clouds, which typically is the higher the clouds are. Now, in this area, in the northeast, we have those darker shaded clouds. That means lower level clouds. Because they are closer to the ground, they're a little warmer. That's why the ground is in that darker gray and the clouds are in that white. So all of this is our tropical system. And then we have this blank spot right here. That is going to be our high pressure system making its way through. So now on to the National Hurricane Center. And the tropical system I have been referring to is right here, Nestor. So let me bring up Nestor. What we're seeing with Nestor, let me just bring up the cone in here. Something very interesting with this cone. It's pretty narrow as it's going through. Now that means we have pretty high confidence of the track of this system. And if we look on the insides, these are all little designations. So it stays pretty much S, which is tropical storm, through this whole phase here. And that is going to be through 1 p.m. Monday. That's the National Hurricane Center outlook for right there. Now what's interesting with that is it may not be directly coming to our area, but if I go back one to the satellite, remember that's where the center of the low is. It's a pretty wide system there. So if the center of the low is going up, let's get where the exact point is here. Say 1 p.m. Sunday is right off the coast of North Carolina. So if I go up right here, off the coast of North Carolina, that is where the center of the National Hurricane Center track would be, which means we're going to have about this much of space for where the system is actually moving through. And if you notice inside my hands there, we do have southern New Jersey kind of going into New York City. So that's a potential that we're going to be watching. And I'm going to bring up the models, good old tropical tidbits here. So let's start with today. We are seeing that exiting low pressure center, still that higher pressure gradient with this high. Oops, there we go. 1019 millibar this is estimating at the moment. And now, when we go through here, our day on Saturday. So this actually looks like a pretty good day overall. The high starts to move directly overhead, so the pressure gradient does decrease. And when that happens, the winds start to die down. So the pick of the weekend, I'm definitely going to say, is Saturday. Now, right behind this here on the GFS model, we have this Nestor system coming through. Now, look again. There's the low pressure center, which is kind of what the National Hurricane Center had it, except a little bit off. So there's North Carolina. So that's where the center of the low pressure is on the National Hurricane Center track versus the GFS. A little bit more north on the GFS here. And that's allowing these showers to come more north into the lower Hudson Valley, maybe scraping near Albany there in New York. So this looks like it's going to be about 1 p.m. Sunday, or 2 p.m. Sunday, just about that same time frame. And it doesn't really come any closer than that, but southern Jersey may be seeing some windy conditions there with some increased chances of showers. Not really heavy rain. There is a little chance there on the GFS here, but again, not that much of heavy rain. It's really just going to be the wind-driven rain that's going to be the issue. And then as this makes its way out, just going into Monday, this is where I was mentioning that high comes in. That next system right there is going to give us a decent day for Monday. But then right behind it here, our next low starting to come in. If you want to see more information on that, again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel below. And hit that little bell icon so you get notified whenever I upload a video like this, or I do go live sometimes. So that's the GFS. We have the icon. Let's take a peek at the icon here. Let me just make sure everything's loaded. There we go. All right. So here, let me just click through these. High comes in, so this is the pretty good day on Saturday. Then here comes Nestor, coming up the way. And this, that is 8 p.m. on Sunday. Let me go to 2 p.m. Now here, there's the low pressure center on the icon, which is pretty close. I think it was right about here where the National Hurricane Center was. So it looks like the icon is in more, or maybe that's what they were looking at. We'll get to the NAM in just a second, but with the icons to be a little bit closer than what the GFS was in terms of the National Hurricane Center forecast track. Now I think it's not really going to be coming more north. I don't think it's going to come as far north as the GFS was saying. So here it's going to be making its way through. The heavier rain still pretty much stays south of New Jersey, maybe just barely getting into Cape May there. And then as we make our way through, it really just stays offshore, that heavier rain, not really making its way up into the tri-state region. Again, just really, really far south into New Jersey, maybe from Swedesboro all the way through Cape May there. So that's what we're seeing with the icon. And then going into Monday, this is where we have a high pressure in place again. Low pressure gradient, even though that high and low are pretty close together. So not a bad day for Monday. Now the last one here is going to be the NAM. So with the NAM, let's start and take a look here. There's the high. Looking for our area for Saturday, which looks like a pretty good day. And then here comes Nestor. Now let me move this to 18Z Sunday, which is right here. The low is a little bit more north from what the National Hurricane Center track was, but not as far north as the GFS, which is kind of like a little compromise. So I'm not too upset with this NAM right now. And it looks like the heavier rain is staying mostly offshore. We are getting those darker greens, the moderate rain coming in for the tri-state, and it is making its way up, even going through, say, Albany there in New York. Now let's continue making this way through. It stays pretty much offshore for the heavier stuff, except we are seeing some banding. Now this may come up because the NAM, North American Mesoscale forecast models are lower, usually shorter range forecasts, but they're higher resolution because they're getting into the mesoscale versus global scale, smaller scale. So it's seeing some things in here that maybe the GFS is not seeing and the icon are not seeing because those are global. So there may be some heavier rain coming through, and that timing is about 8 p.m. Eastern time, Eastern Daylight Time on Sunday. So Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, looks like we could be seeing some rain, a little bit of wind. Not very high because we're not getting that high of a pressure gradient going through here, but still a little breezy. We could see that windy condition coming in later in the day on Sunday, going through the evening hours, but then still kind of the idea as Nestor makes its way out, the high comes in, and when it's pretty much overhead here. Again, it's going to be that more oval-shaped high. Lower pressure gradient, again, a nice day, what it looks like on Monday. Now, the last thing I want to mention is the temperatures. So I have the MOS data up here. And with the MOS data, we're seeing what looks like overnight lows in the low 40s, mid 40s, low 40s. So this is really for more south into the Hudson Valley and going into New Jersey and Long Island. Now, specifically in New Jersey, this is where the freeze warning was coming from in the higher elevations in Sussex County there. Upper 30s are very possible. Same thing going into Sullivan, Ulster, and Dutchess County in the Hudson Valley. We could definitely see those temperatures getting down into the upper 30s. It looks like the highs, we're seeing upper 50s, low 60s, low 60s, low 60s. So not that warm of a day for Saturday. And then going into the overnight, upper 40s, mid 40s, low 50s, upper 40s, upper 40s, low 50s, upper 40s. So a chilly overnight for Saturday night into Sunday. And then when the rain comes through on Sunday, the high temperatures aren't changing too much between Saturday and Sunday, even though we have this kind of split personality weekend with a nice day Saturday and a rainy and windy kind of day for Sunday. So we're seeing low 60s, mid 50s, low 60s, mid 50s, low 60s, upper 50s, and then mid 60s, mid 50s. So again, not that warm, especially when we're getting that stronger winds. And we're seeing, let's see, wind speeds, not really terrible. Still today, we're seeing sustained winds getting into the, say, 15 to 20 mile per hour range. But again, it's not going to be that windy going into Sunday, just a little bit breezy there, it's looking like. So we're just seeing a little bit of wind, not much, maybe 10 to 15 miles per hour, getting especially later in the day there. So that's kind of what we're going to be seeing with the temperatures and with the wind. And that pretty much wraps up this weekend outlook forecast. So I'll end again here on the big radar. So we are going to have, again, that split personality weekend. We have a high pressure moving in here, giving us very clear conditions that we could really see here on the national radar. Then when Nestor comes into the area, Tropical Storm Nestor, it's really not going to be directly impacting us as the center line of the track stays right around, say, North Carolina, Virginia there. But we could see the outer bands starting to make their way up into Jersey, even as far north as Albany. So we are going to have a wetter day the second half of the day on Sunday, again with a little bit of breeze coming in, but it's not going to be a good day. If you're going to do anything outside, it's definitely going to be on Saturday. That is my pick of the weekend. So thanks for watching, everybody. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero. If you want to get more weather updates, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. And if you want to see more content with gaming, game streaming, we have maybe again another pumpkin carving. We'll see if that's going to happen. Maybe not for that one. But also I'm going to have some more specials. I'm still working on a storm surge explainer. So I have a lot of interesting content coming out. Again, this is meteorologist Andrew Pinero. Have a great rest of your night. And if I don't see you over the weekend, have a great weekend. And I will see everybody in the next video.